Hey, what's up, YouTube fans? So what I wanted to talk about in this video, right? Um, my view, which I think that there is compelling evidence towards, right, is that to for there to be creatures like humans, which build the kind of technology we build, have the level of awareness we have, right? Is a very rare outcome of evolution that does not occur on most planets, right, where you get life, right? So, I've talked a lot on many videos, right, about the observer bias, right, and how that addresses the statistical aspect of the origin of life, right? Because there's no limit to how large the cosmos could be. Plausibly, it's entirely plausible that the cosmos is infinite, both in space and time, right? That's completely plausible. And we, the observers, right, could only find ourselves somewhere where there is life, even if the vast majority of places within the cosmos, even if the vast majority of planets within the cosmos never get life, right? We, the observers, could still only find ourselves somewhere where it happened, no matter how stupendously rare, right? Because anywhere without life, you never get anything with brains, sensory organs, nothing with the level of awareness of a human to know that life exists, right? And so you don't get observers there to know the difference as to if there was life there or not, right? And so therefore, meaning, right, that along with the fact that there's no known limit to how large the cosmos could be, we don't know how large it is completely plausible that it's infinite, right? Both in space and in time, right? And in every direction, spatially and in time, right? That therefore, the fact that we observe, right, that life exists here on Earth, right, also factoring in, right, that as of yet, no other place in the cosmos is confirmed to have independently gotten life from, you know, like anywhere else, right? Nowhere else is confirmed to have independently gotten life completely unrelated to our life, right? As of yet, right? Um, and all life on Earth, right, has a common origin, right, tracing back to one single common ancestor species, right? So it only had to happen once on planet Earth, right? And so therefore meaning, right, that our observation that it happened here is not in of itself at all evidence that it's at all common. It could be however amount statistically rare that it would have to be, whatever number someone comes up with, that like, oh, the odds are 1 in whatever crazy large number, something to the power of something to the power of something, whatever. It very well could be just that rare. We don't have evidence alternatively, right? So long as, their number is accurate, right, which some may argue against, but let's say it is, right? I think it maybe is accurate, right? But that may be just how rare it actually is within the cosmos, and we could only find ourselves wherever it happened, right? But so in any event, right, what's also interesting though, right, is the observer bias, that we could only find ourselves somewhere where where there are observers, right? It applies to more than just the origin of life, right? It can be applied towards other certain other things, like, for example, some have argued that the origin of eukaryotic life, right, eukaryotic cells, right, that does not occur on the vast majority of planets that ever get life, right? That some have argued that the vast majority of planets where you ever get life, it stays prokaryotic, right? that it's much more rare for it to be eukaryotic, right? Without eukaryotic cells, right, you likely would never get anything as complex as us, right? And so again, we could only find ourselves somewhere where there is eukaryotic life specifically, right? Um, but then also what's interesting, right, is it even is applicable to the origination of humans in particular, right? It's applicable to the origination of humans in particular, um, where it may very well be the case that even on most planets where you get creatures with brain and nerve cord, a complex nervous system, even on most such planets, you still never get anything with the level of awareness of a human, right? That could very well be the case, and yet again, this observer bias would still be applicable to that because the observer bias actually uniquely applies to us humans in a type of way it does not apply to other creatures, because while, a fish or a bird or whatever, other animals, yes, they have a degree of awareness. They see things around in their environment. They might notice a predator chasing them. They notice food. They have a degree of awareness, yes, right? And yet they do not have the level of awareness that humans have, right? And they therefore do not have awareness about whether or not they are on a planet where there is something like humans, right? They do not have awareness of that, nor have they even contemplated the possibility of it, most likely, right? They do not recognize that they're on a planet, right, where there are creatures that know all of the things that us humans know with physics, biology. None of that, they have not even ever contemplated it. It's a completely foreign concept to them. They have never even contemplated the possibility of it, let alone knowing whether or not it's true, right? Even for those of them that do exist on the same planet as us humans, right, they wouldn't know the difference as to if they did or not, right? Because yes, a fish, right, they might exist on the same planet as us, or a bird, right? But they do not know about all that us humans do, right? Some of them even observe us humans and observe some of the things we do, but they do not have the level of understanding to know all that us humans do, right? They do not know about how us humans have figured out about physics. They don't have awareness about most of the things that us humans do. We are mostly, to them, most of them, we're just another creature in their environment. They do not know the difference as to if we were how we are or not. They do not know the difference, right? And so therefore the observer bias does not apply to them in the same way as it applies to us, right? Because a fish, a mosquito, an elephant, whatever, they do not know the difference as to whether or not there is for one thing, they don't even know that they're on a planet, let alone that they're on a planet with something like us, right, that knows all of the types of things that we know, right, that no other creature knows, right? They have not even contemplated the possibility of that, let alone know that it's true, right? They don't have awareness of that, right? So while, yes, they do have awareness of some things, right, they do not have awareness of whether or not there is something like humans that has awareness of all the types of things that humans have awareness of, right? Something that does have awareness of that, right, though, could only find themselves to exist somewhere where there are such things, even if there are not such things on most planets, even on most planets where there's something with a brain and a nerve cord, right? And a complex nervous system, in other ways, right? And so therefore, factoring both that in, and then also factor in the fact that on planet Earth, right, we are the only one example of a creature like us that has the level of awareness that we have, right? no other creature on the planet Earth, right? No other lineage aside from ours, right? Which is exactly what we would expect if most planets there is no creature like us, right? If on most planets, even on most planets where you get something with a brain and a nerve cord, most planets where you get something with a complex nervous system, if it's the case that on most such planets you never get something with the level of awareness of a human, right? If that is the case, right, from a statistical standpoint, right, with the odds, a number of chance events being involved, right, that the odds are not in favor of, such that it does not happen on most planets, right, even most planets where there's creatures with complex nervous system, right, if that were to be the case, right, then we would expect that on most planets where there is something like us that has the level of awareness of us, that there would be only one single lineage like that, right? That is what we would expect, right? Whereas alternatively, if that is not the case, right, if on, the majority of planets there's more than one such creature, or the majority of planets where there's creatures with complex nervous system, that there's more than one such creature like us, well, then we would not expect to find ourselves on a planet where there is only one such creature, right? But if on most planets it doesn't happen, then we would expect to find exactly this, that there's only one lineage on the planet Earth where it happened, right? So the fact that we do observe that to be the case, right, along with this observer bias, this is strong evidence then, right, that most planets, even most planets with life, even most planets with eukaryotic life, even most planets with creatures with complex nervous systems, even to the level of a dog or a chimp, that even on most such planets like that, that you still never get something with the level of awareness of a human, right? And of course, the observer selection bias, it wouldn't, favor it being exactly like us, right? There's a number of ways that, you could have something that has the level of awareness of a human, but is not identical to humans, right? It wouldn't, have to have a nose looking just like ours, and, two nipples just like us, and, all of the specifics of our anatomy, but the observer bias does apply insofar as, a creature that would have awareness of whether or not there are creatures with awareness of the things that we have awareness of, which, yes, that's a mouthful, but hopefully you're following along with what I'm saying. But in any event, that's all for now. See you guys.